Every wedding anniversary, Ethan would bring a woman home, claiming he wanted me to educate her. For our 10th anniversary dinner, he brought back a club waitress dressed in a Playboy bunny costume. She doesn't have an evening gown. Give her your wedding dress to wear and that jewelry set I gave you last time too. As for shoes, I think the pair you're wearing now will do nicely. Oh, and she's young and inexperienced about many things, he added. Take extra care in teaching her, especially about bedroom matters. Everyone was waiting to see me make a fool of myself, and once again, I didn't disappoint when I said I wanted to divorce Ethan. Ethan burst out laughing, looking at me with disdain and mockery as he spoke. Chloe Miller, when have you not threatened divorce? I'm more tired of hearing it than your moans in bed. If you dare to divorce me for real, I'll give you $100 million. The room erupted in laughter once more, their words dripping with implications that I was playing hard to get and didn't know my place. What they didn't know was that this was my 100th time mentioning divorce, and the only time I truly meant it. Every pair of eyes in the room turned toward me. Even the young club hostess who'd just entered covered her mouth to join the laughter. Place your bets. I wager she'll regret this before she even leaves through that door. I bet at least $1 million. I'll go with 300,000. The betting pool about whether I'd divorce had become that tired old routine at every anniversary celebration. Many lost money and resented me. Those who won seldom treated me any better. I chuckled softly, shaking my head as I cursed myself for being spineless, waiting 10 whole years before finally resolving to leave Ethan today. I'm calling divorce. A low voice came from the crowd, while others tried to dissuade him from acting rash. I followed the sound but couldn't quite make out the speaker. Ethan, I'll mail the divorce papers to your office. Remember to sign them when they arrive. I've talked about divorce hundreds of times, but this was the first time I mentioned divorce papers. Ethan straightened up, the cigar ashes trembling from his fingers and scattering across the floor. I pretended not to see, crouched down to unfasten the high heels, and placed the shoes beside the young girl's feet. Her name was Haley, barely in her 20s, and strikingly beautiful. These shoes might pinch a bit at first, but you'll get used to them after wearing them a while. Regarding the gown and jewelry Ethan mentioned, I'll have Maria bring them to you. Before you, Ethan had already brought back 9 girls. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask them for advice. They live on the 3rd floor, and your room is the last one on the right after turning. After 10 years of marriage, the people Ethan brought home could form their own sisterhood meeting. Tall and short, plump and slender, innocent or glamorous, aloof or lively, every type imaginable was there. Rumors outside say he wants to be Hugh Hefner at home, assembling his own Playboy bunnies. But I wasn't blessed with such fortune. I could no longer be one of them. I brushed off the invisible dust from my shoe and stood up, walking barefoot toward the front door. Before I could step outside, a powerful grip yanked me back. Chloe Miller, if you're leaving then leave completely clean. Which item on your body wasn't bought with my money, Ethan Grant's money? My bare feet seemed to step on blades of ice at that moment. Even my breath trembled slightly. You want me to take off my clothes? Ethan raised an eyebrow, his gaze light as if trying to see right through me. When your family went bankrupt back then, didn't your mother strip you naked and stuff you into my bed? Leave the same way you came, or do you regret it? Fine then, kneel and put her shoes on for her, and I'll forgive you. The group of people behind Ethan were laughing their heads off, doubled over with mirth. Back when Ethan and I had just gotten together, the Millers went bankrupt, and my father jumped off a building, ending up in a vegetative state. Afraid the Grants wouldn't help, my mother drugged both Ethan and me into unconsciousness. Afterward, she went to great lengths to make the incident public knowledge, forcing the Grants to take responsibility. That night marked the beginning of all my humiliations, and completely shattered the youthful love between Ethan and me. Ethan was forced to marry me, and on our wedding night, he brought another woman home to humiliate me. They did everything right in front of me. Even the Viagra was unwrapped by my hands and handed to him. The mess left behind was also cleaned up by me, kneeling on the floor, piece by piece. 10 years I endured this degrading life. Now, I can't take it anymore. I'm stripping. Before anyone could react, I'd already undone the clasp of my shawl. It was midwinter, and the venue was well heated. But standing by the doorway, icy gusts blew up my skirt, raising goosebumps on my exposed arms and shoulders. I reached back to unfasten the hooks of my dress, letting the delicate fabric slip from my shoulders. Half my shoulder and the full curve of my breast were exposed. Oh my God! Several faint-hearted individuals in the crowd covered their eyes, too terrified to look again. The men, however, watched with rapt fascination. Only Ethan's eyes darkened like ink, his thin lips pressed tightly together. Only the slight tremor in his fingertips holding the cigar betrayed his agitation. As the dress slipped away, I stood nearly naked before the gathered crowd. Ethan's cigar burned his fingers, and he immediately discarded it. Without hesitation, he shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it over me. Chloe Miller, do you have a death wish? Everyone close your eyes. If a single word of what you saw today gets out, you won't live to see tomorrow's sunrise. Get the hell out of here. Ethan rarely lost his temper, especially in situations like this. The people present were all old acquaintances who knew better than to linger, and they promptly made their exit, along with the 9 little girls Ethan had brought back earlier, who had all gone upstairs one after another. Only Haley remained standing there. "Ethan, are you satisfied now? Will you let me go?" I tilted my head up and stared stubbornly at Ethan, not letting the tears welling up in my eyes fall. I've cried for Ethan too many times already, and now I don't want to shed any more tears for him. "Chloe, stop playing these cheap games of playing hard to get in front of me. It makes me sick just watching you." Ethan still didn't believe me and warned me not to disgrace the Grant family name. I took a deep breath and spoke again. "Ethan, this time I really want a divorce." Ethan acted like he'd heard the most ridiculous joke in the world. He grabbed the back of my neck and forced me into a bow. "Do you dare to get a divorce? Can you afford even a single day of your father's hospital bills? Can you cover your mother's shopping sprees every day? Chloe, your mother would be the first to kneel and beg me not to divorce you." Ethan's hatred for me and my mother has reached a point where it can no longer be hidden. He resents my mother for drugging him, and despises me for doing nothing. "Back then, even without your mother's drugs, I would have married you and helped you. But you had to use the most despicable method I can imagine. Chloe, you're the one who destroyed our relationship with your own hands." No matter how many times I explain this matter, Ethan will never believe me. Seeing my silence, Ethan's frown deepened. He grabbed me and forced me to kneel before that young girl, pressing my neck down to make me put shoes on her. "Put her shoes on. You've been doing this for 10 years. You should be a pro by now." Over these 10 years, I had to take care of Ethan while also attending to those 9 little girls. I did too many things, right or wrong, forced or willing, that even I can't look down upon myself for. But now, I just want to end it all as quickly as possible. So once again, I obediently slipped shoes onto the little girl's feet. Perhaps I was too obedient, draining the fun out of it for Ethan. He dragged me into his room with resentment, stripping Haley naked right before my eyes. I'd witnessed such scenes many times before. Sometimes Ethan would even demand that I teach them how things were done. Just like before, I tore open a condom and handed it to him. But this time Ethan pushed it away. "This time we won't be needing that." My hand trembled as I withdrew it. Ethan didn't pause in his movements, but for once, he glanced up at me. I didn't look at him, nor could I be bothered to. Ethan was angry again. He had locked me in the bathroom. That night, the wind and snow outside raged fiercely, and the commotion beyond the walls was intense. I sat there, listening to it all night. In my dazed state, I was jolted awake by the sharp ringing of my phone. "Is this Miss Miller? Your mother has been in a car accident and is currently in emergency care. Please come to the city center hospital immediately." My heart instantly leaped into my throat. "Ethan," I began pounding on the door repeatedly, trying to interrupt the sounds coming from outside. Ethan opened the door wrapped in a bathrobe, his loose collar revealing love bites, with a woman clinging to him like a second skin. "What's wrong?" "My mom was in a car accident. Could you take me to the hospital?" I knelt on the ground pleading with him, tears streaming down my face, terrified he might refuse to take me if he was upset. "Seriously, sis? You couldn't even come up with a better lie? It's 3 a.m. in a snowstorm. Sane people stay home. Did the car crash into your mom's house or something?" Haley scoffed, gesturing toward the pitch-black sky and swirling snow outside. Ethan chuckled without even looking up. "Chloe, really? That's the best lie you could muster? What's the matter? Can't stand hearing our voices anymore?" Ethan locked the door again. The more I shouted, the louder the commotion outside became. Left with no other choice, I grabbed the nearest stool and smashed the window to climb out. Sharp glass sliced through my leg, blood instantly gushing out. It was too late and snowing heavily, so I couldn't get a ride-sharing car at all. Like a mindless zombie, I could only stumble forward through the snow, leaving behind trails of shocking crimson bloodstains. With a beep-beep, a black Porsche Cayenne pulled up beside me. "Get in." Inside the dim, cramped vehicle, the man in the driver's seat never once turned to look at me. I kept thanking him profusely, but he didn't say another word. As we were about to get off, I finally heard him say, "Chloe, you have options besides Ethan. If you come to a decision, remember to look me up." A gold-embossed business card was handed over. I received it with both hands, thanking him repeatedly. But at that moment, my mind was completely preoccupied with thoughts of my mother. Without really looking at it, I stuffed the card into my pocket. I stumbled into the hospital emergency room, and before I could even ask, I saw a nurse pushing a person covered with a white sheet out of the operating room. "Has Susan Miller's family not arrived yet? The person's already dead, and the daughter still hasn't shown up." Unbelievable. The 2 nurses were chatting, their words piercing my heart like daggers. I rushed over and pulled back the white sheet. Her once delicate face was now covered in wounds, her body and legs scarred with injuries large and small. About Ethan, I've resented her every single minute of these past 10 years. I've even entertained the vicious thought of the whole family dying together. But now that she's truly dead before my eyes, all I feel is heartbreak. Since there were no relatives left at home, there was no need to hold a funeral. I stayed by my father's hospital bed for a while, telling him about my mother and sharing my own news. We talked intermittently until dawn. Before leaving, I looked at my father, who remained as still as he had been for the past 10 years, and spoke with a sob in my voice. Dad, I'm exhausted. Early the next morning, my mother's body was cremated. I placed the urn in a box and brought it home. Along with it, I also brought home the divorce papers I'd had a lawyer prepare. As soon as I entered, I bumped into Ethan sitting at the dining table, laughing and chatting with his flock of pretty admirers. Sign it, I said coldly, slamming the divorce papers onto the dining table. So you ran out in the middle of the night just to get these divorce papers? Chloe Miller, you've truly gone too far. Clutching the urn tightly in my arms, I kept my head lowered. Ethan, let's spare each other this pain. I don't love you anymore. In the past, I would still argue with Ethan a few times, and when tempers flared, we even came to blows. I would point at his nose and demand to know if all his sweet promises of love back then were just jokes. Most of the time, I still clung to a sliver of hope, hoping he would forgive me and that we could work on our marriage. So when he said he liked it wild, I learned to please him in bed. I wore his favorite outfit to please him, knowing he preferred innocence. But as woman after woman moved in, my heart grew quieter by degrees. Those tricks I'd used to amuse him became my shame and weapons for his cruelty. Sis, what's this that fell out? Leo Foster. Haley picked up the business card I had dropped on the floor and read the name printed on it. So it was Leo Foster, Ethan's lifelong rival, that unseen nemesis from across the ocean. The next instant, a grim-faced Ethan slapped me hard across the face. You said you don't love me anymore. Is it because you found someone else? Do you know who Leo Foster is? A deafening roar filled my ears. I could barely stand straight, and the urn in my hands cracked apart with a loud snap. Watching the ashes scatter into the air like dust, I stood there, completely frozen. Without thinking, I dropped to my knees, desperately trying to gather the ashes back together. No matter how I tried to gather them, it was useless. Haley even picked up the nearby milk pitcher and poured it on the ground. The others followed her example and began pouring theirs out too. The powder instantly turned into sticky clumps. At that moment, something in me snapped. I went mad, lifting a chair and hurling it at Haley. Ethan had no time to react. Haley was already clutching her head and collapsing to the floor. Ethan, brother, I'm in so much pain. Someone called an ambulance, and Ethan held my hand, making me watch at the hospital. If anything happens to her, you'll join her in the grave. That day, I was forced to donate blood to Haley, over and over, until even the doctors said it couldn't go on. Only then did Ethan let me go, saying I'd brought it upon myself. I stayed hidden in my father's hospital room all those days without stepping outside. Big sister's hiding here. Thanks to your stern wake-up call, Ethan is treating me so much better now. Is this big sister's dad? Why isn't he moving? Flushed with favor, Haley walked and spoke with such an air of haughtiness. She kept tugging at my father's ventilator tube again and again, curiously asking me what it was. Stop messing with it. I shoved her away, and she covered her head as she stumbled back a few steps. The next second, she rushed forward and yanked out my father's ventilator tube, holding it playfully in her hand with a grin. Do you think Ethan will blame me for this? The next second, Ethan walked in. He froze at the sight before him, his eyes darting back and forth across me. After struggling for words for what felt like forever, he finally uttered, Haley's still young, she doesn't understand. Your dad's condition was beyond saving anyway, an early end might be a mercy. I'll send more money to your mother from now on, he added. The heart monitor's alarm continued to blare beside me, each beep announcing my father's death. I froze in place, feeling not just sorrow and grief, but even more so, a sense of relief. Ethan no longer paid me any attention as he carried Haley away. Collapsed weakly on the ground, I kept apologizing to my father over and over, though I didn't know who in this world had ever truly been fair to me. I pulled out the business card and dialed the number. Mr. Foster, come pick me up tonight. The same cremation, I endured it once more. This time, I placed my father's ashes in a niche at the memorial hall. When I returned to the Grant residence, Ethan hadn't come home yet. Those 9 women kept whispering in my ear that Ethan was furious and I was doomed. I turned a deaf ear, but they persistently followed me, asking if I was really going to get a divorce. I didn't answer, just opened the bedroom door. Choose. Everything in here belongs to you now. The moment I said this, they all rushed in like a swarm, and the room was emptied in an instant. Only a few scattered photos of Ethan and me from our youth lay on the ground, unnoticed by anyone. I locked myself in my room and didn't step outside until nightfall. At one point, Ethan sent Maria to check on me. I simply had her deliver my divorce papers instead. Divorce again? Over 100 times now. Chloe, aren't you tired of this game? Ethan tore the divorce agreement to shreds. Let her starve. Only bring her food when she stops being difficult. Ethan thought my talk of divorce was fake. Thought even my saying I didn't love him anymore was a lie. But love truly can be exhausted. 10 years later, I really couldn't love anymore. Now I stand alone in this world, What is there left that I can't let go of? That night I climbed out the window and got into Leo Foster's car. The next day, when Ethan woke up, he didn't see me bustling around in the dining room. There were no omelets he loved on the table, no coffee I'd brewed myself, and no ironed and matched clothes on the rack. Ethan frantically rushed upstairs and flung open my room, only to find it completely empty. He picked up several group photos from the ground, his mind in turmoil. "Maria, where's Chloe?" Maria rushed over at the sound, still holding her spatula, glanced at the empty room and shook her head to indicate she didn't know. "I'll call her mother." Maria froze for a moment, instinctively countering. "Young master, Miss Chloe's mother has already passed away, hasn't she? She was cremated the very next day." Ethan's mind flashed back to the scene of me holding the urn that day, his breath halting for a moment. He bent down to pick up the photograph from the ground, his pupils dilated as if all vitality had been drained from him, leaving only an empty shell. 10 years had passed, and he never imagined Chloe would truly leave him. The photograph in his palm captured them in their early 20s, taken on the streets of Paris. Back when they first got together, he didn't even dare to put his arm around her shoulders in their photos. But she noticed his hesitation and rested her head on his shoulder instead. Ethan carefully wiped the dust off the photo, desperately trying to smooth out its creases, yet no amount of effort could undo the wrinkles. "Maria's making omelets today, we'd better head downstairs quickly to get a good spot. Your outfit looks really nice." As expected, genuine brand items are just different. "Your hairpin is lovely too. Don't these shoes look nice?" Chirping sounds came from outside the door, making Ethan frown as he glanced out. At first glance, he noticed Haley was wearing a pink gown, the very one he had bought for Chloe in Italy. It was a 1-month anniversary gift from their relationship. "Stop." Ethan rushed out the door and sternly called out to everyone. Yet what he saw were the scattered remnants of gifts he'd given Chloe appearing on each person: scarves, coats, dresses, handbags, shoes. One person was even wearing what should have been his and Chloe's wedding ring. "Who told you to wear her clothes? Take them off now. Who gave you permission to wear that ring? Take off everything that doesn't belong to you." Ethan's gaze briefly lingered on each person, yet he could never remember these faces. He hadn't even memorized their names. Usually to provoke Chloe, Ethan would indulge their every whim. This was the first time seeing him so furious. The girls were so frightened they immediately stripped off everything they were wearing. Haley, being inexperienced, muttered some complaints and refused to undress. Ethan's eyes burned red with anger. In a few swift steps, he closed in on Haley and ripped the clothes right off her body. "You have 5 minutes. Put back every single thing you took from her, exactly where it belongs." Ethan left Maria to watch over them while he rushed downstairs to check the surveillance footage. The security team pulled up surveillance footage from the past few days for Ethan to review. Ethan immediately spotted me running through the heavy snowfall that night, and the bright red bloodstains trailing behind me made him gasp in shock. He saw me getting into Leo Foster's car, twice, both times with Leo Foster. "Damn it, we never should have let that bastard come to the party that night." Ethan cursed under his breath as he returned home, stepping inside to find several women casually chatting in the living room. In the past, seeing Chloe surrounded by them while seething silently had secretly amused him. But now, without Chloe around, their voices merely grated on his nerves. "Without Chloe here, even my days feel dull. She should be washing our socks around this time, and later she'd make us some snacks. Don't say it, but I do kinda miss her." Ethan stood outside the door, his eyes brimming with icy disdain. Though these were all things he'd tacitly allowed in daily life, yet hearing those words spoken aloud, each syllable felt like it was flaying him alive. "I'm telling him, he's the one who drove Chloe away. Maria, have them pack their things and get out." Ethan's sudden roar startled everyone in the living room to their feet. They all instinctively apologized, promising they'd never gossip behind people's backs again. But Ethan wouldn't listen to their explanations, directly ordering Maria to take people upstairs and pack their belongings. At this moment, the brave Haley stood in front of Ethan, blocking his path. "I'm pregnant," Haley said, touching her barely visible belly with a hint of smugness on her face. Yet to her surprise, she noticed the expressions of the sisters behind her had all changed. They hurried upstairs and packed their luggage within minutes before rushing out of the Grant residence. Haley was baffled. Wasn't getting pregnant supposed to give her leverage over Ethan? Why were they in such a panic? The next second, she was grabbed by Ethan and thrown against the wall. The sharp pain in her back made her gasp, yet Ethan remained composed, standing there with an icy expression. The words that came out were downright heartless. "Maria, have Dr. Chen come to the house for an abortion." A simple sentence like that proved this wasn't the first or second time such things had happened in the Grant family. What Haley didn't know was that this task used to fall to me in the past. Ethan would never allow any woman to bear his child, including myself. I discovered I was pregnant just 2 months after getting married. Afraid Ethan might harm me and the baby, I thought about running away, but no matter how I tried, Ethan always caught me and brought me back. During the struggle and pushing, I had a miscarriage. That day, Ethan's bloodshot eyes were filled with hatred toward me. He said I was cruel, that I had no heart. But to this day, I still don't understand. He took away our child. Why am I the cruel one? Haley, too, didn't understand back then, just like me. So she knelt on the ground begging for mercy. No, I don't want to terminate this pregnancy. Mr. Grant, didn't you say you loved me dearly? You told me you adored me most. Why can't you let me have this baby? Ethan glanced back, his eyelids drooping slightly as a faint trace of disdain and contempt flickered in his eyes. Love, you think you're worthy of it? Haley gazed into those fathomless eyes, trembling all over as an icy chill ran down her spine. Ethan instructed Maria to take care of Haley, then drove off by himself. Right now, he had more important matters to attend to. Maria sighed and coaxed Haley into waiting at home for the doctor's visit. When I left the Grant residence, the combination of old and fresh injuries left me unconscious for several days. When I awoke, Leo Foster was watching over me. The morning light shimmered on his hair, refracting into different hues. I instinctively reached out to touch it, only to hear Leo murmur in his sleep, "Chloe, run." Chloe? My outstretched hand froze midair. Was I Chloe? Leo stirred, and I hastily withdrew my hand, squeezing my eyes shut to feign sleep. But my fluttering eyelashes betrayed me. Still pretending to sleep after waking up? The man's voice was deep with a hint of morning hoarseness, sounding rather endearing. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. When I opened my eyes, I instantly fell into those tender, liquid pools of affection. Get up. The chef downstairs made your favorite cream scones. Leo pulled me up from the bed and affectionately ruffled my hair. Cream scones. When I was little, I loved the cream scones Grandma made most, but after she passed away, I never went back to the countryside again. The scones made by people in the city all lost that original flavor. I sat at the dining table looking at the scones before me and cut a piece. The moment it entered my mouth, it was as if I'd been transported back to those scorching summer days spent in the countryside. This taste, it's exactly like my grandmother used to make. Leo gave a soft chuckle, saying only that it was a secret. I snorted with laughter and bent my head to finish every last bite. When I looked up again, a car came careening through, smashing through the wall and coming to a stop right outside the courtyard. Amidst the ruins, I watched Ethan step out of the car. Leo Foster, get the hell out here. A group of bodyguards blocked Ethan's path, but he roared like an uncontrollable beast. I knew Ethan had come for me. Not wanting to cause trouble for Leo, I rose to my feet. But Leo grabbed my hand, his fingers tightening around mine. I'm coming with you. Leo Foster, ever since we were kids, you've loved taking things from me, and now you dare steal my wife? This was the first time I'd heard Ethan call me his wife. All these years, his usual names for me had been that woman, that bitch, that damned woman. The thought unexpectedly made me want to laugh. I followed behind Leo, watching Ethan flounder awkwardly in the courtyard scuffle. Yet waves of pain still rose from my chest, an unbearable tightness. Chloe. Ethan's eyes reddened the moment he saw me. Back when Ethan and I first got together, we were both quite shy with each other. He would always blush, and whenever he felt slightly wronged, he'd ask me with teary eyes if I still loved him. Each time, I'd indulge him like comforting a child, never tiring of doing so. But later, because of Mom's selfishness, everything came to an end. Ethan, go back. I won't leave with you. My parents are gone, and there's nothing left for me to miss. The mistakes my mother made should have been paid off after 10 years. From now on, we owe each other nothing. Ethan's eyes gradually reddened, his puppy dog eyes filled with grievance. Chloe, I didn't know your mother had passed away. If I'd known, I would never have said those things to you. Believe me, this time I truly don't blame you anymore. From now on, let's live well together, okay? I've already dismissed all 10 of those people at home, really. From now on, you'll be the only mistress of the house. Ethan hardly dared meet my eyes as he spoke, his gaze constantly shifting and unsteady. I shook my head, linked arms with Leo, and looked down at Ethan as I spoke indifferently. Ethan, the 10th anniversary was my 100th time saying divorce. From the very first time I mentioned it, I had already decided that once I reached 100, I would truly go through with it. Ethan, love can be exhausted. I really don't love you anymore. Remember to sign the divorce papers. After saying this, I turned and walked back to my room, but the dull pain in my chest nearly took my breath away. I don't love Ethan anymore, yet the wounds he inflicted remain unforgettable. Ethan charged forward like a madman, only to be instantly subdued by Leo. Ethan, if you dare barge in there, I'll make sure the Grant family pays for it with their lives. The Foster family now stands as the most prestigious clan in the city, their status towering several levels above the Grants. Even with all the Grant family's wealth, they still couldn't compare to such aristocratic lineage, which was precisely why Ethan had long regarded Leo Foster as a thorn in his flesh. You can refuse to sign the divorce papers, but I'll still find a way to make sure she's never yours again. With a dark expression, Leo leaned close to Ethan's ear as he delivered his threat. Later, I didn't know how Ethan left. I only knew the outside world had returned to silence. At night, Leo sat beside me, keeping me company as we gazed at the stars. As I studied that somewhat familiar profile, I finally voiced the question lingering in my heart. Leo, have we met when we were children? Leo's pupils contracted sharply as he turned to face me. You remember? I shook my head and said it was just intuition. Leo lowered his head in disappointment, but the next second began talking about how he spent every summer before age 10 with me in the countryside. I was surprised to find I had absolutely no memory of this. No matter, now we have plenty of time to create new memories. Looking at Leo, that familiar heavy ache returned to my chest, like a stone pressing against my heart. Leo, I heard there's a surgery that can make people forget painful memories. Could you take me to get it done? I want to start fresh and slowly build our relationship with the new me. 2 weeks later, Leo and I celebrated our engagement party. The engagement banquet gathered elites from all walks of life, and Leo held my hand the entire time while introducing me to everyone. I saw this gown in Italy before, the only one of its kind in the world. Never imagined Mr. Foster would buy it for your fiancé. Sorry for beating you to it, Leo chuckled, draping an arm over my shoulder as he teased that he'd let me have the next one. Chloe Miller, a booming voice shattered the easygoing atmosphere of the engagement party. I turned to stare at the unexpected intruder, puzzled. Although he called my name, I didn't recognize him. Seeing the aggressive man approaching, I instinctively tightened my grip on Leo's arm. Chloe, you're still my wife. How dare you get engaged to someone else? Ethan, I warn you not to go too far. Leo stepped in front of me, completely blocking my view of that man. I peered at him through the gap, his refined features contorted with anger, that handsome face now somewhat diminished in its charm. Seeing him so enraged actually frightened me a little. Me going too far? Leon, she's my wife. Leon snorted coldly several times before pointing at the display screen in the banquet hall. Ethan, open your goddamn eyes and see clearly. Her name isn't Chloe, it's Cleo. Only then did Ethan notice that none of the banquet place cards bore Chloe's name, until Leo produced my new identity documents. That's when he realized Leo had tampered with my identity records. Chloe, Ethan reached out to grab me. Instinctively, I jerked away. I don't know you. Ethan's outstretched hand froze midair, the disbelief and sorrow in his eyes nearly spilling over. I'm Ethan. We've been together for over a decade, and you're saying you don't remember me? Did Leo Foster do something to you? I shook my head again to indicate I truly didn't recognize him, my fear of him growing stronger by the moment. I see, you must still be mad at me, right? I've collected your mother's ashes. Look. Ethan pulled out a small box from his pocket, inside of which lay a small lump of sticky powder that looked somewhat dirty at first glance. Frightened, I hid myself in Leo's arms as Ethan caused a huge scene at the banquet, even resorting to violence. Leo had someone throw him out. Until the very second he was ejected, he kept shouting Chloe's name. Her name differed from mine by just one syllable. I didn't ask, because my instincts told me I shouldn't. The engagement banquet didn't end until evening. Leo had several friends to see off and asked me to wait inside. As I sat listlessly on the floor, a figure came to stand before me. I raised my eyes and saw that man named Ethan once again. He held up both hands, his face full of fear and tension. Don't be afraid, I won't do anything to you. I just wanted to tell you, my name is Ethan. The man shoved a few photos, a diary, and a phone into my arms. I looked at those crumpled photos. There, unmistakably, were pictures of me with this very man named Ethan in front of me. Is this you and me? Could the man before me truly be my husband? But why do I feel nothing when I look at him? I opened the yellowed diary, filled with records of Ethan and my love story from 10 years ago. Every word overflows with my deep affection for Ethan, and his tender care for me. The sweet feelings between the young couple leaped vividly off the page. The memos on this phone are all about our daily life together. Skeptical, I opened the phone and checked every memo. Each one was indeed about Ethan. A sudden dull ache clenched my chest. My hand trembled, accidentally opening the memo drafts folder. The deleted memo contained the names of 10 women, along with each of their preferences. I froze for a moment, then pointed at this memo and asked him, "What is this?" Ethan looked somewhat guilty and deleted it again. Ethan, you say we've been together for over 10 years, so why do our shared memories only go back 10 years? Haven't we been together these past few years? Ethan hesitated and couldn't respond. I sighed and casually flipped to the last blank page of the diary, only to discover that the blankness of these past 10 years was actually my own suicide note written by my own hand. It recorded all the harm I suffered at Ethan's hands over these 10 years. The things Ethan did to me during this decade were truly deplorable. Looking at the densely packed handwritten words, I couldn't stop my tears from falling. It's as if those events are playing out before my eyes once again. Ethan, is this also true? My hands trembled as I lifted the diary, and Ethan's face instantly turned deathly pale. He wanted to explain but found himself utterly unable to speak. Perhaps I truly loved you after all, otherwise I wouldn't have willingly endured 10 years of suffering just to stay by your side. But now, I truly don't love you anymore. Ethan, goodbye. I wiped away my tears and stood up, only to be pulled back into Ethan's embrace. Chloe, don't leave me, alright? For these 10 years, I know I was wrong. Ignoring my resistance, Ethan pressed his entire body against me. I screamed and struggled, even my clothes were torn apart, and in despair, a figure appeared. Leo pulled Ethan up with one hand, fists raining down on Ethan's body. It wasn't until security came and pulled them apart that Leo, with murder in his eyes, fiercely warned Ethan. Ethan, you'll make the entire Grant family pay for this with their lives. I hugged Leo, trying to comfort him. Leo held me tightly, whispering words of consolation. After the engagement banquet, I never saw Ethan again, but it was said the Grant family vanished overnight. As for Ethan himself, there was no trace left of him. Rumors swirled that the foster heir had raged for her beauty's sake. Yet no one knew who this woman truly was. Only that she resembled Ethan's former wife. From then on, Chloe ceased to exist in this world. There was only Cleo. This Cleo is one without those painful memories, a Cleo without heartache. This is the Cleo who was utterly adored by Leo Foster. Several years later, Leo and I welcomed our own child. At the baby's full moon celebration, I received a tiny pink dress. The accompanying note was signed a decade later. As I looked at that pink dress, my eyes grew warm. Come quick for the family photo. Leo waved at me, and I tossed the pink dress and greeting card into the trash. A new life shouldn't be tangled with the past. Brave souls must keep moving forward, never looking back. The end.